Hey y'all. Not today. Welcome. I'm Dee, and this is Single Mom and Got a Life, where I try to navigate through finances, motherhood, being single, and everything in between. And I bring you guys along for the journey to hold me accountable. So this is my March side income budget with me. Okay, it's a little bit different because you see this video, you are riding along with me, but unfortunately at this time there's nothing to ride along with, so I'm going to take you on a journey on how I record my income, as well as what I plan on to do with it, as well as talk about March Madness. So I was able to do a recording of my income that I made for the weekend. Sorry for the blank. It's just the most irritating thing in the world. I just don't know how best to get this done. And I also had a tip of the week. So I'm going to go ahead and insert this at this current time, and then we'll come back and we'll start discussing about all of this. Find out what I earned for the week. We must first find out what I earned in each platform. And let's be honest, I didn't really do too much this last week. And I'll get into that in a little bit. The only platform that I actually worked in was Instacart, and it was a total of $103.88. That was for 3 batches. It was broken down in Instacart payment of $37.25, and the tips were $66.63. The only day I worked was Saturday. I did pick up two full service orders, as well as I picked up 1 full service order before I decided to call it a quits. So the only thing I can say about each of these orders was the first order, the customers were unresponsive. So I end up refunding one customer a couple items, and I actually did a lot of partial quantity of multiple items of the other customer. Customer A of the first order, the first batch, was in an apartment. Luckily, they didn't have a lot of stuff, and it can fit in the 2 thermal bags, and we were good to go. Customer B, house was actually up a slope, and they knew that, so they were trying to meet me at my car, but I moved a little bit faster than he was moving, and we met at the end of his walkway to his steps. And so it was alcohol, so I had to verify his ID, scan it, and then I brought his other 2 bags up. The second 2 full service orders, one customer, most of the items that she wanted, she only wanted like 5 items, and the one item that she wanted they didn't have, and so she just wanted to be refunded. So that's what I did. The other customer had multiple replacements, but he was available to talk to me with the replacements, but he also had 2 refunds as well. The last order I took was 1 full service order, and it was like a lot of items. I had never done it before, but I went ahead and grabbed it because it was there. I was near the store itself. The customer was responsive, but not responsive sometimes. So it did take a long time for her to respond back, but she had multiple items, so it was able to work and keep it moving without being stuck, waiting for her to respond. And she had multiple replacements. She didn't have any refunds, so she was willing to work with me to ensure that I didn't have to replace anything. And she also took one of my suggestions because she wanted some udon noodles in one brand, and they didn't have it. Her substitute wasn't a udon noodles, and I hope I'm saying that correctly, but it wasn't a replacement. It wasn't the same type of noodle, but there was udon noodles that was available, but it was actually in the same brand that she wanted, that I was getting her replacement for the lo mein noodles. And so I told her, I said, well, they have this one. Do you want the udon noodles? And she said, yes. I said, would you like this replacement versus the other one that you chose? And she said, that's a great idea. So sometimes offering up like the replacement option, even though the customer may have chosen a replacement, but it may not be the best replacement, because again, they can't always see what's in the store. So they're just putting in probably udon noodles and they bring up a brand, they choose that brand, and that's the only brand they're showing. Okay, so that is my little tip. Next, I am going to actually show you something that I do in a store that when I initially start the process of like starting the shop, it may not show me the aisle numbers. So I'm going to talk you through what I actually do in regards to that. If you have issues when going into a store and you do not see any aisle numbers listed, definitely try these tips. The first thing that I do is I refresh my screen. As I'm refreshing my screen, I'm actually immobile. I'm making my way to the first aisle of the store, which is right there when you walk in. In the first aisle, you will find your breakfast, your coffees, your teas. So I see there's 3 items: the Folgers coffee, the Dunkin' Donut cereal, and the Frosted Flake cereal. I am picking those items up while I'm refreshing the screen and putting them in my basket. I do not want to waste any time. I walk over to the third aisle, which has the Gatorade. While doing that, I back out of the batch, and then I go back to the batch to see if it's going to show the aisle numbers. And as you can see, when I came back, we still have no aisle numbers, but I still have 3 items in my cart at this current time, and I'm working on the 4th item while I'm refreshing. I continue to refresh the screen hoping that it would appear, and then I go ahead and scan the Folgers coffee because I figure that at this time I just don't want to waste any more time, and the items really are not that much, and I am familiar with the store, so I know what I can go next to find the other items. So I proceed to scan the Folgers coffee. After scanning the Folgers coffee, I refresh the screen, and now I have aisle numbers, and I proceed to scan the 2 items I have in my cart, and I'm working on the 4th one. So I have not been wasting any time. So we are back, and hopefully the tip that I provided was helpful for anyone that have issues with locating aisles in stores throughout the app. So let's talk about our side income. So we're going to move this to the side. We're going to move this to the side as well because we need to work on this first. So for the March side income, it actually falls in lines with March Madness. So it's only going to be 4 weeks versus for me, I usually count March as 5 weeks because there are 5 Mondays in March. But I want to stay in line, as well as we'll be moving to a new challenge, as you can see. So I just wanted to make sure I'm just running the course. So let's go ahead and talk about what I was able to earn. The first week of March, we have March 1st through March 7th. And the platform I earned the most in was Instacart. And that helped me not only reach my weekly goal of $250, but helped me exceed it. So that's a plus. Week 2 was March 8th through March 14th. And it was neck and neck with Grubhub and Instacart, but Instacart did pull out again. And I was able to reach my weekly goal 250, exceed my stretch goal of 350, and exceed that. So that's where the 375.72 come from. For week 3, which was March 15th through March 21st, Grubhub was the platform I earned the most in, and that brought my total to 315.05. The last week, let's talk about the last week. We had car trouble. We had schedules conflicts, and we had a little laziness going on. So from the week 4, March 22nd to March 28th, I only brought in $103.88. So I had to take my car into the shop on Wednesday, but there was an issue that started on Monday. So the first day that I was going to be able to work in this week was going to be on Tuesday. So I couldn't do anything that on Tuesday. And so the next available day for me was Saturday, and that's what I did. And then Sunday came, and I just didn't feel like it. So that's what we was left with, okay? So now we're going to go ahead and move that to the side there. And we're going to work on, actually, and I hope you can see that, what we was able to earn for each platform for the month. Starting with Grubhub. So the first week was $65.59. The second was $146.61. The third was $185.58, and I didn't do anything in the 4th week. So that's $397.78. Okay, so Instacart. As far as it goes with Instacart, I earned $239.32 in the first week, $184.58 in the second week, $77.90 in the third week, and $103.88 in the fourth week. So that is $605.68. So for ship, nothing. Now I did attempt to do ship on Saturday, but yeah, it was to Party City. It was 2 bags of balloons, and that was not gonna work. So I ended up having them to remove that order, and I moved on to my merry way. What was funny is that the guy at the store was like, hey, there's other orders here. You want to see if you can take them? No, sir, I'm gonna keep it moving. So then for for Uber Eats, I don't know why I was gonna say March, but for Uber Eats, it was $34.08 for the first week, $44.53 for the second, and $51.57 for the third. So that's $130.18. Let's add that all together to see what's our totals for the month. $1,133.64. We're going to actually round it up to $1,134. There we go. And then before we proceed, we're going to talk about our March Madness budget edition, okay? So when we left off, we had week 1 at $298, and we had week 2 at $323. So for week 3, we were able to put a total of $267. And then week 4, even though I wanted to just throw in a towel and just use that money for just anything but not what it was supposed to, I went ahead and still allocated to the categories that I was planning for March Madness. So that was $80. And I hope y'all can see that. Okay, because it looked like a D now. So let's go ahead and we're going to total that $298, $323, $267, and $80. So that's $968. All right, $968 for March Madness. I am so happy for that, because now we have to talk about how we're actually going to break that down. And so these are the categories that I usually break down my side income, but we're going to talk more specific about what the money is going to go towards. So starting with that, we are actually going to send $559 to this category. That is for our SBL2, that 401k loan that we're working on. So I'm going to put an asterisk there, because asterisk means March Money Madness. All right. So giving, of course, this sick area is what I allocate for anytime I give outside of my church, and which include either organizations or to individuals. And so that total was $114. Then for savings. Now the savings is something specific to a goal that I'm working on, and I'm currently working on funding my upcoming trip. So I was able to send a total, and I don't know why given was not an asterisk. Let's go ahead and pause that. See, I didn't got all asterisk happy. So let's just clean it up so I don't see it. Okay, and now I messed it up, but we're fine. So for savings, like I said, this is my trip, and it's a total of $182. So we're going to put an asterisk there because that is from March Money Madness. Now, sinking funds, this is simply just my gas. I should just put gas there, but I refer to this area as sinking funds. So the amount that I am sending or allocating to my gas is $52. And then for taxes, taxes was another item that I wanted to include in March Madness money, and the total for that is $227 because we have a tax bill. As you know, my federal and state I do owe for 2020, and as Megan with her Courage to Plan says, we are going to serve them an eviction notice to get out of our bank accounts when we pay them. And so that's what I'm doing. So let's go ahead and add that up to make sure it adds up to the total of $968. And there we go, $968. So we good to go. So this is how my March Money Madness goes. I also wanted to talk a little bit about something that I usually don't talk about, but I usually talk myself through a couple things, and when I'm paying off debt and I'm planning for something, and since I'm planning for a trip, I'm going to tell you how I determine what I need and when I need it. Okay, so I always write down this stay. I am estimating that I would need a total of $2,000 set aside. And the first thing I did was I did create a sinking fund account specific to this trip, so I know where the money is going. And the things that I would need, first and foremost, because it is an international trip, I would need a passport, and I'll be renewing mine, so that's $110. Then the next thing is airline. I did not want to spend over $600 for airline tickets, so I was able to accomplish with getting a passport application and information sent out. I'm just waiting for confirmation for that because it has been 14 plus days, but there's still no information found, so I'm going to follow up with them tomorrow. I was able to purchase my travel, and it definitely was less than $600 for the airline tickets. Now, I do often purchase items in the airport, so I'm still having that leftover amount lingering, but I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to apply that somewhere else, but that's where we're at for right now. For hotel accommodations, we have chose a resort and chose an all-inclusive because I do not like to think about what I'm eating or what I'm doing. Okay, so the best way to do that is let somebody else tell me. And so that is also set at $600. Now, this is not to be said to be due to right before the trip, but I did put a date, and I'm going to put it here, but I will say there is a date I set to make sure that this amount is set aside for the hotel. Because we're going on a trip, and its specific reason is for my sister's birthday, and she would like to do excursions, I have decided to allocate $150 to that. After that, no bueno. I don't have to do anything. I'm the type of person who goes on a trip that actually takes breaks throughout my trip because I do not like to come back from my trip and need another vacation. Okay, so I did set myself at $150. There is one excursion that she has already planned, and at this current time it's way less than $150, so it does give me a leeway if we decide to do something else. The next thing is clothing and personal. I often first comb my closet to see the items that I would like to actually bring with me on the trip, and then I search for items that I don't have but will need. Right now I haven't gone through my summer tote because I haven't taken it out of the attic, so I will have to do that in the next couple of weeks in order to determine how much I will be actually sending to this category. And again, this is a category that is ongoing, which means that I'll just make sure I'm putting something aside to go towards it. The last category is what I refer to as my food tip, and I'm going to abbreviate this, and I don't know, maybe let's say souvenirs. I guess that's an abbreviation, probably not, but I'm only going to set $250 for that as well. And again, that has a date. I'm just not going to state at this present time. And this is basically what I will need for my trip. Now, I also always have an emergency buffer that is set aside just in case something happens. But let's total this all up. And so 1910. So 1,910. That's what I rounded up to 2,000 for. And so at this current time, I actually only need 1,000 by, again, I'm not going to say it, but date at this present time. And so what I did is I broke it down in the 4-month stretch in order to see exactly what I want to throw towards it. So I know I want to throw $160 in March because I'm working on my paying down my debt. So $160 in March, $160 in April, and then I'll be able to throw more in May, in June, and so that's what we have here. And that should get me roughly to $1,000. And as you can see for March, I'm already exceeding that goal with the $182. Okay, so yeah, this sinking fund is actually not going to be one that I'll be tracking on video. Furthermore, it was just something for me just to give you some insight on the planning phases. So we have discussed March Madness, and there we have it. We have discussed the side income and how much we actually brought into the home and how I have allocated the money. So we are good to go in regard to this. If you're new to my channel, I would love for you to be part of my village. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. To all my returning subscribers, thank you. And please share this with your family, your friends, and your coworkers. Peace out.